Welcome! My name is Kelly Anderson, and this is Fanimated, an animation fan podcast where we get a chance to geek out about our favorite animated media. We are continuing our second anniversary celebration this week and all month long with double the episodes, exciting gifts for patrons, and a giveaway on our Instagram at Fanimated Podcast. And today, Perry is here to join me from the podcast Banter, I Hardly Know Her. We are so excited to discuss one of our favorite Disney animated films. From the minds behind The Little Mermaid and Hercules, we are diving into Treasure Planet, the 2002 Disney animated feature. So without further ado, here's your spoiler warning for Treasure Planet, and let's get started and let's get animated. Perry, thank you so much for joining me today. How are you? How is Florida?
Oh, I'm doing great. Florida has been amazing. It's nice to be able to have sun for at least portions of every day, but you just got to be okay with the torrential downpour every afternoon at about 4:30.
Oh, no. It seems like a small price to pay.
It is. It really is. We've had, being able to go to a Gulf beach or an Atlantic side beach on any given day is pretty nice.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Well, here in Iowa, everything is just humid all the time. And then, give it a few weeks and suddenly it'll be winter and there'll be no in between at all.
Yeah. I mean, I'm coming from Indiana where, like the seasons were warm, like extremely hot, extremely cold, and road construction. So
Yes.
Now being in Florida, it's just a totally different challenge. And but I'm enjoying it so far.
Well, good. I want to thank you so much for being on the show today. I'm so excited to talk about Treasure Planet with you.
Yeah, super excited. This is a favorite of mine, has been for quite a while, so let's get into it.
Absolutely. I was thinking about doing this show, talking about Treasure Planet, and then you on your podcast talked about it, and I was like, That's it. I got to talk about it with Perry because you love it so much. So can you introduce yourself and your podcast and what you guys do over there?
Yes, absolutely. My name is Perry, and I'm one of the co-hosts of Banter, I Hardly Know Her, which, if you're wondering what that means, it's a Office reference to a joke made by Michael Scott that my friends and I just always took way too far. And to the point of now making it the name of our podcast. So I guess we got the last laugh with that joke. But so myself and my co-host Wes, we talk about all things movies, entertainment. We used to do some sports until we found out that the majority of our audience was not into sports quite as much. So we don't do the sports nearly as much anymore. But we can't help ourselves every once in a while.
Geek out about whatever you want to geek out about.
But for the most part, we stick with movies like Disney movies or action movies, war movies. We love all that kind of stuff. We do a lot of animation, which is one of my huge passions. And sometimes we just do like random, like just funny games or something. Like we in a week or so, we've got a Hunger Games simulation with Disney TV and movie characters going head to head in a like Hunger Games scenario. So we like to do just kind of fun, random stuff like that too every once in a while.
Absolutely. Yeah, you guys have a lot of fun things you guys think up and talk about, and I'm really looking forward to that Hunger Games scenario. That'll be really fun.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We try to be, as well as anybody that the animation, Disney, like movies, reviews, all that is very competitive in the podcasting realm. There's so many. So we just try to find ways to be a little unique, and just step out of the box of a movie review podcast or, one thing or the other. So we like to just switch it up, keep people on their toes.
Absolutely. And you definitely do that. So keep making awesome content.
Yeah, appreciate that.
All right. So diving into Treasure Planet. For a quick synopsis, just if anyone hasn't seen it from here on, spoilers, it's from 2002, so hopefully you've seen it already. But if you haven't, go see it right now and then come back. But the basic synopsis is we follow our protagonist, Jim Hawkins. He's a teenage kid who is, trying to figure out what he's all about. And he is very, very smart, but also just doesn't quite fit in, just hasn't quite found, his calling, I guess. And he and his mother, his mother has the Bilbo Inn, and they live there, and a ship crash lands, bringing with it this very creepy guy, and he's got this trunk, and it's got this like special little orb in there, and you have no idea what that is. And before he dies, he's like, watch out for the cyborg, and so with him brings all of this chaos and destruction, because then there are these pirates after them. And when Jim and his mother and Dr. Doppler make it out, they find that this little orb is actually a treasure map to Treasure Planet, the infamous pirates' keep of all of this crazy treasure that they say is out there. So of course, Dr. Doppler and Jim Hawkins go on an expedition to retrieve the treasure, and of course, everything goes awry, and it's a really great adventure. So that's kind of like the precursor basics, starting off point. And it's obviously based off of the book, Treasure Island. I don't know, did you, Perry, ever read Treasure Island?
There's a lot of things I didn't read, and that is one of them. I've heard of it, but I've never read the book.
Well, I did read the book, and I'm pretty sure it's for a class at some point. And I will say, like, it's scary, especially reading it as a kid. It's a scary story. Like, Jim in the book is younger, of course, and he goes through all of this horrible, this horrible adventure, and it's much more sinister, and he ends up killing someone at one point. Like, it's pretty intense. So, even though Treasure Planet has definitely got some intense moments, it's a little scaled down from the book, I'd say.
I'd say so. They try to make it so an 8-year-old could watch it and not have nightmares.
Exactly.
Although Mr. Scroop, though, I would have probably had nightmares about Mr. Scroop.
Yes, definitely. Which, leads me into, did you watch this as a kid? What was your history with watching the film?
Yeah, it's hard to say when the first time I watched this movie was. I'd say I probably watched it as like a young teen, but really it was late teens when I started getting really into animation, really into Disney. Mm-hmm. And then it was like a movie that stuck out to me, I think maybe when I was like 17, watching tons of Disney movies to prepare for going to Disney World for my like senior present from my parents, that my mom and I and a couple of my siblings would get to go to Disney World. And so to get myself excited, to get my siblings excited, we were watching all these Disney movies. So this was one of them, even though there's really nothing in Disney World that's Treasure Planet, unfortunately. I feel like I've got some ideas of things that would be sweet, but nothing's really there. But we watched it anyway, and it was one that stuck out as like a really cool story, a father-son story. Like, there's pretty much nothing in the like Walt Disney Animation canon that is a father-son angle kind of like that. Mm-hmm. Pixar has a few things in that realm, but nothing Walt Disney Animation really.
Right.
So it just kind of stuck out, and then it became a favorite of Wes, my co-host, and mine in college when I showed it to him for the first time. Mm-hmm. And it might have not been the first time actually, but it was at least the first time that he in a long time, and it just became something we started watching every semester almost. So
that's awesome. Yeah, just a continued love for it as time goes on. That's kind of my history with it too, because I know for sure my parents never took me to the theaters to see it, and it was one we never owned at home either, so it was always one that it was like, oh, a friend has it, so I'd see it. And then later on, in life, when I, was going through all the animated films, and I was like, oh, I almost forgot about that. This one existed like completely. So I rewatched it and I was like, oh my goodness, it still holds up. And then just, this week when I was watching it again, I'm like, this is still a fantastic film for being almost 20 years old. So
yeah,
I think it definitely holds up for sure.
I agree. Just watching it, like literally, I finished 15 minutes ago, and just watching it again, like some of the like CG that is used in it, which I would expect to be horrible,
right.
and it's really not that bad. It's not super obvious. It's kind of subtle. Like they don't really try to flex it, other than like the whales. Early on, I would say it's used pretty well, like just some little like point of view kind of pans throughout the room or things of that nature that are used pretty cleanly, I'd say. So looks really good for being 18 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like they really did try to just make it all cohesive so that you really couldn't tell. Like that was their ultimate goal, just like with any use of CG, but trying to make it seamless so you couldn't tell what was CG and what wasn't. And, they had the elements of that traditional, and that's what I love about this is because I really feel like this film, it was really, near the beginning of really getting into some really good CG. And so you can still tell it's like a little older, but it's still, it's like they're experimenting more with what they can do with it. So everything feels so much more cinematic, like with what, camera shots they're trying to do. And, they've got the ships that are like crazy and moving everywhere. And even with Silver, his mechanical arm and stuff and all of that going on. So there's a lot of CG and I think it's utilized really, really well. Like that's the biggest thing is they were like, let's, do some crazy work with this and really make it feel like this epic grand adventure,
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, compare that to some other 2002 animated movies that were heavily CG'd. Like, I know you like Spirit, right?
Yes,
you
I do.
mentioned that.
Yeah.
I still feel like Spirit looks a little raw on the CG with a lot of their, especially like the movement, the pans that they use a lot.
It does. Mm-hmm. I would agree.
And there's some other ones too. I'm trying to think of what else came out in 2002. I know that Spirited Away came out in 2002, but that wasn't. There wasn't really CG in that. Yeah, so, but anyway, I know that Chicken Little came out 2 years later. It was the first Disney animation fully CG film, and that does not have the same level of detail put into it as Treasure Planet does. So
does not. I would agree. So this one really is really so fantastic, and it's unfortunate that it didn't do as well at the box office for being such a phenomenal film.
Yes, very unfortunate.
That's a huge part of Treasure Planet's story, unfortunately, is that it was this huge, financial loss and it just did not do well. And, I don't know, I think Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets was at the same time. Like, sorry, you can't compete with Harry Potter. Yeah. Like, I know my parents brought us to see that, but they didn't bring us to see Treasure Planet.
Yeah, not only Harry Potter, but it was actually the fourth box office grosser that week that it came out because Bond had a movie that came out that week and the Santa Claus 2 as well. So
that's tough competition. And Santa Claus 2, it's like you're pitting your own movies against each other. What's going on?
Yeah, I think Eisner was there's some kind of, I don't know, something going on in the inner workings of Disney that Eisner didn't really want this movie to succeed for some reason.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. I did read that they did, pitch this film during the idea for The Little Mermaid. So they've had what was it? Ron Clements and John Musker had this idea for a long time, and kept pitching it, and it kept getting rejected and rejected and rejected, and it's like, come on.
Yeah, seriously. Like, that was their, like, passion project, and they just kept saying, no, we think you should make these other movies, Little Mermaid, Hercules, right? And so it's just like, did they do one in between Little Mermaid and Hercules? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that was
I think that was it.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It's a shame, but I am glad that it at least got made so we can enjoy it now.
That's right. Yeah, it did take them like 17 years since the first pitch for it to come out, but
Yeah.
we got it, and maybe it looks a lot better than it would have had they got it approved right away. I don't know.
Absolutely. It definitely would have been different because,
Yeah.
I mean, all these CG elements, technology just moves so fast, especially in the animation world. Like, I was just talking about Frozen 2. And, like, when I look back at the original Frozen, I'm like, wow, it's so old already. Like, I can
True.
tell. Like, so for them to have those years in between the first pitch and finally being able to make it, like, it really left them time for the technology to be created that they could do what they wanted to do with it, which is to make it this big cinematic epic story. So even though it didn't do so well for Disney, I'm still glad that it was made, and you can really tell that they had a lot of passion behind it. And I think it's just one of those forgotten Disney films that not everyone remembers, but it has a diehard fan base. That's for sure.
It does. It's the definition of underrated Disney animated movies. I mean, I know everybody these days has like their underrated Disney animated movie, but like some of them are just like, okay, Lilo and Stitch or Emperor's New Groove is a common one, but it's like, okay, at this point, I'd say most people like acknowledge that those movies are pretty good. Treasure Planet is one that's like truly underrated. Like, didn't make any money, probably doesn't have like the huge like VHS release that like Emperor's New Groove and the fan base of like that kind of audience, I guess. But it's a great movie with just everything you need for like the adventure. It kind of feels like a space western. Like, it's just so good.
Absolutely. I love the feel of it. That it is like, melding this, old, Treasure Island feel, but also this space adventure. So sci-fi stuff going on too. Yeah. And I think they blended that really well. And, with all aspects of it, both with the style and the animation and the design, but also like with music, sound effects, all of it feels like a good mix of this like traditional work along with this like newer sci-fi kind of feel. And along with the animation, like the animation is the same thing. It's like the blending together of these two different animation types really well. So it just makes for a really great adventure and a really great universe that they're exploring. It's beautiful.
Yeah, true. Yeah, it's just an unlimited universe for sure. The characters, creatures. It is kind of weird the limits or lack thereof for all the creatures that you see in this movie.
Yes, all sorts of different types of aliens, and like the one pirate has that Jim talks to, and then like the head comes off, and it's like, oh, that's like a separate separate being and
alien.
Like, what?
Yeah, it is so strange. I don't know where they came up with these ideas. I'm curious. Have you seen Titan AE?
I have seen Titan AE. Was that around the same time?
So I actually haven't seen Titan AE except for maybe the first like 10 minutes or so that my friend tried to show me to get me to watch it. And I was like, but I know it's Don Bluth's last movie, and it was 2000, right? And
that's right.
I haven't seen it, so you can maybe shed some light on this. But do you think maybe that movie also contributed to like Treasure Planet doing poorly in box office? Like people were like, oh, they look so similar. This movie kind of sucked, or
oh
I
wow. That thought hadn't even occurred to me. But I could imagine from, a casual consumer standpoint, how you could look at the, marketing for Treasure Planet and be like, oh, is this going to be another Titan AE? Because they both have a lot of sci-fi elements, obviously. I will say that, Titan AE is like probably one of the worst Don Bluth films I've ever seen.
I haven't seen a lot of the like, Troll in Central Park or whatever, and it's the ones that maybe not as highly acclaimed. But yeah, I've heard Titan AE is not great.
It's not. And like even that is a good example of like, yes, like CG could do amazing things like Treasure Planet, and then you also have Titan AE where you're like, maybe not as great.
Yeah.
Oh man.
True.
So yeah, I wonder if maybe that was kind of part of it too, and just kind of this like weird. I feel like it was kind of a weird time in animation history too, because like, it was just a kind of a turning point. It was during that age of like we're switching, we're moving towards more computer animation.
Yeah, that's right.
Into where we are now, where everything is computer animated fully. So yeah, I wonder if Titan A had anything to do with it.
Yeah, I've definitely heard that like you're saying, that change from like trying to do 2D to going to completely CG animation that was happening right about that time maybe had something to do with Eisner's like preconceived, like, I don't necessarily want this movie to succeed kind of, I don't know, the undertones of how he released it, the marketing or lack thereof.
Yeah.
And because it was just 2 years after that, a year and a half after that, that he shut down the Florida animation studio and they went to completely CG. So
yeah,
maybe.
So you had mentioned too, a reason you really love this film, and is another reason why I really love it, is because it's got the super great like father-son dynamic, which if you listen to the podcast at all, like parent like relationships are my favorite thing. And Silver and Jim are like the best part of this movie. Their relationship is phenomenal. So tell me what you love about it.
Well, it's different. Like, I'm not going to say thankfully I would say I'm blessed to not like relate to the storyline of Jim. In terms of like, it's so sad when during the song that you like see Jim as a kid and his father walks out, and his mom is left there crying, and this is during a whole montage of him getting closer to Silver, and then Silver like kind of comes back, and like it's this whole thing of like, oh, he's not leaving me, kind of, Jim was maybe worried that Silver was gonna jump on the ship and leave, or jump on the little escape boat and leave, and then he comes back, and so you start to see the connection of like, he's the father figure that I've never had kind of being made, and it just feels so different. Like there's a lot of like quote unquote boy targeted movies that Disney's made over the years, but somehow they've never gone with this kind of angle. Like, you've got Aladdin, which has Aladdin has its own problem. So maybe you could say that like Aladdin and Genie is a sort of similar thing, but I wouldn't compare it to the Silver angle with Jim. It's just such a great different connection where Silver is obviously like a bad guy, but his heart is changed, and Jim's heart is also like, he is this hardened 15, 16, 17-year-old kid. How old is he? I'm not sure.
Teenager. I would guess around 16.
Yeah, and he's just, I don't know, he just has so little confidence. All he knows is that he messes up, and he wants to change that. He wants people to see him different. And so Silver, when he tells Jim, you're gonna, what does he say? You're gonna rattle the stars, you are, or something like that. And it's just like, oh my gosh. I've heard grown men brought to tears talking about this movie and how it made them just think back to their relationship with their father. So it's unique. It is not something that Disney has outside of Treasure Planet.
Absolutely. The way they're able to, bring about the emotions in their relationship is unmatched, I think. It's so good. And with Jim, like, I feel like there's a part of Jim everyone can relate to, like that fear of like messing up all the time and like, not getting that affirmation. Like, that's what he needs, like, is that affirmation from Silver. And I mean, and you mentioned the song "I'm Still Here" is, the best part of the movie.
Yeah, it is such a good song. Like, I'm not huge on like montage, like cartoony montages where it's funny. I just watched the Phineas and Ferb Candace Against the Universe movie, and it's like they totally make a troll about, oh, to get this done, we just need one montage. And it's like the idea of like just having so much accomplished and just putting in a song, so it like simulates the passage of time and you don't need to actually have a story. But so yeah, in general, I'm not big on those kind of montages, but I think this one does it pretty well, because it's not like simulating a huge passage of time. It's more about Jim's backstory and then a little bit about him growing with Silver. So
Absolutely.
it works.
Yeah, that's interesting because I actually really like those kinds of montages. I
Nice.
do, because I'm just I'm a fan. For my part, I really love storytelling without any dialogue.
Okay.
And so in this montage, you just get all these different snippets of both Jim finding things in Silver that he really admires, and vice versa, Silver finding things in Jim that he really admires. It's just like this continued bond of mutual respect, and like I just think it's so beautiful. And maybe that's why I like Spirit more than you, because like that's like basically all of Spirit is a montage.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I was thinking also to like Mulan, which is a movie I love, but I love the song "I'll Make a Man Out of You," but it always strikes me as kind of weird that you can just like do this whole you stink at combat, like you have no idea what you're doing, and then end of montage, all of a sudden you're like the best soldier here kind of thing. So
right, it's like, oh no, we need a whole bunch of things to happen, and we still have like 40 minutes of the movie. We better just do a quick little montage.
Yep, exactly.
To get you there. Yeah, that's true.
So there's not such a huge dramatic transformation that goes on during this montage. It's more of like, I don't know. It's more to me is that seeing the story of his dad walking out and then relating that to his relationship with Silver is just that's what gets me.
Absolutely. I think it's a beautiful way to tell Jim's story without having someone be like, this is what happened, or having him explain it. It's like just being able to see that and feel that, like, again, like even if we don't have like personal experiences with that, it's still like really, really gut-wrenching, and also really hopeful when you're like, oh, Silver and Jim. And it like just sets up their relationship as being something you're really, really rooting for. And so then when Silver does betray him, it like hurts all the more.
It does.
And just dagger right to the heart.
At the same time, though, it does help a little bit that already at this point that Silver's bad. So it would be a bigger dagger if we saw that scene with Silver, like, spoilers. Yeah, we're already past that. Where Silver kind of explains, like, to the crew that, like, oh, I'm not going soft. I'm just throwing him off the trail or something like that. And that would hurt a lot more if we didn't already know. I think that he was bad. A little bit of dramatic irony going on.
Absolutely. That would have hurt a lot more for sure. And really, when you look at the whole film, like, yeah, it's about Jim, and it's about him like becoming more confident in who he is, and he gets so much out of his relationship with Silver, but it's also really, it's about Silver a lot too, because he changes it, and by the end, there's again, spoiler, like he's got to make the choice, like, do I save Jim or do I keep all this treasure? And he does have a soft spot for Jim, but it's a good soft spot, so yeah, it's great. Yeah,
he makes, like, as I was watching it just an hour ago, he makes like one like last ditch effort of being like the tough villain, it seems like, when he gets onto the ship with Jim and he's like, you're not keeping me from me treasure, and and then Jim gets thrown off and onto the wall, and instant just flip, like, oh, I don't care about the treasure, like, oh, Jimbo, I gotta save him. So yeah, that was interesting, and maybe a little bit quick on the change. Now that I was like watching it today, I was like, he's going from not showing that he's willing to like hurt Jim to get his treasure, and then all of a sudden he's like, okay, throw that away, Jim's in trouble. So I don't know, being a little picky. Got to be a little picky because this is a review podcast. So
absolutely,
do what you got to do.
Absolutely, and that's true. I hadn't even thought about that, because I'm so rooting for it that it's like, yes, I want him to change. So I totally ignore the fact that it happened so quickly. But yeah, I would agree. Now that I think about it, it is a pretty quick change for him, for sure. Yeah. But it's a perilous climactic moment. Gotta take advantage.
That's true. That's true. And then it triggers into one of the most exciting scenes in Disney animation, probably, after that.
Yes, tell us all about it. Let's go.
Okay, well, don't mind if I do. Yeah, so right after that, right after he saves Jim, they get back, like they lose all the treasure and escape from the center of the mechanism of the planet. They get picked up in like a ship with Ben the robot and Amelia and Dr. Delbert Doppler. So they realize that they're not going to be able to escape, basically, and Jim makes a makeshift solar surfer, and with amazing James Newton Howard score playing in the background, he is like gliding through all the wreckage to go to beat the ship there and to open a portal to Montreser Spaceport. And it's so much action, so cool. I just love whenever he's on the Solar Surfer, even though it's not much of the movie, honestly, just at the beginning and then at the end. But so cool. Like, that was what drew me in as like the first time watching it as like a 16, 17-year-old. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is cool. I want a Solar Surfer. So.
Exactly. Yes, that is it. That is it. I mean, if it's not the Jim Silver relationship being the best part of this film, it's that scene. Like, It's so epic. And again, like the musical score is one of my favorites of all time. Yeah. It's so epic. And he's just flying through all these pieces of debris. And then it's like, you got that false moment of, oh, it's, the engine isn't working. He's got to like spark it back to life. And it's like, will they make it? Will they make it? It is like the perfect climactic, they've run out of time and they've only got, they've got so many seconds.
Ben is literally counting down 3, 2, 1. Yeah.
Yes. And then of course they burst through the portal and that the music just soars and you're so happy and excited. And oh my goodness, it's what a way to end in
so
the
good
adventure. That's so good.
So satisfying at the end.
Absolutely. So we've talked a lot about Jim and Silver, but there are lots of other characters here. So what are some of your other favorite characters of the film?
Well, I mean, gotta give some love to Delbert Doppler.
Yes,
so
yes.
He is such a funny addition, and as I watched it today, one thing I noticed for the first time ever is the kind of almost like Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, like Doc Marty relationship from Back to the Future with Jim and Dr. Delbert Doppler, mainly just because of a couple times where Jim calls him Doc, and it just sounds, it sounds so similar to just Marty saying it. I was like, I wonder if that's kind of a callback, maybe. It's quite possible that just that little thing is a callback. Yeah. And then, Delbert Doppler's relationship with Amelia, she's great.
Yes.
Yeah, she is such a kick butt captain, and I'd say pretty progressive for 2002 to have your probably most BA character in the movie be a woman. So that was a cool move, I think.
I would agree wholeheartedly. Captain Amelia is amazing, and voiced by Emma Thompson, who is like queen. So it just makes it absolutely perfect. Like she's not only physically capable, she's also super intelligent, and like her wordplay is fantastic. A+.
Indeed.
Gold
yes,
stars.
that scene where she's like breaking down like why she thinks that the crew is bad and why he needs to keep his mouth dry. Shut your howling screamer.
Yes.
Yeah, she's got some good witty lines there.
It's so good. So good. And I would agree, Dr. Doppler is probably my favorite character after Jim and Silver, because he's just so hilarious and so charming. And oh my goodness, just makes the movie have so much heart and like levity. It's so great. And then, but he too, he's like telling them all about like the sun when it explodes and all of that. And so, he's, I feel like for the most part, every single character, like obviously is very important and has a lot to, bring into the plot, as well as being, because he's not just the comedic character, although he is. But he also is important to the plot, which kind of leads me into, I want to mention, especially this time watching through it again, I'm just going to throw it out there. I'm not a huge fan of Ben, but what are your thoughts?
This is definitely a legitimate concern because he's only in like 30 minutes of the movie, but it seems like that he has as many lines as any character. It's Martin Short, so like I'm sure like there's no way that this is not true to some degree, that once they figured out Martin Short was going to voice the character, they're like, okay, we've only got him written in for like 30 minutes of movie. We need to stuff it with lines. Like,
that's quite
it just
possible.
Seems like some of the gags are just shoved in there. I do like I think that he adds something, and I think that the Martin Short's great, but I could go with about half his lines, honestly. I don't think he needs to be as annoying.
Yes. It's like, I really, really love his humor, and there's like, he's fun, and I like his character a lot. But it just feels like this like last minute add-on of like a Deus Ex Machina character who's just there to provide information and to like help them out of situations. Like, oh, we have no place to hide. Ben has a place to hide. Oh, we have no way to escape. Ben knows the back door. We need answers, and Ben's there to, provide all of the answers. And it just feels kind of like granted, the movie changes quite a bit between, during that last half hour of the film, and it becomes very different. And so having been there is useful and provides much needed levity for this very dark and intense like situation they're all in. But yeah, I just felt like, it just felt like it didn't quite fit, and he, is just there to kind of, explain away all the things. And
Well, Ben is actually based on, like, there is a character that is Ben in Treasure Island. So, I haven't read it, so you probably knew that already. But there's like a ex-crewman in Treasure Island that does like the same thing.
Just about to say, there's that ex-crewman at the end there when they're on the island, which true, definitely keeps it moving along. And but again, he's very funny, very enjoyable. It also is like this other sidekick character when it's like you have Morph, though. Morph is the best side character, but sidekick.
Yeah, it definitely seems like they try to shove him in, and let's be honest, merchandise. Like
there we go.
That's the big push. Like, let's shove him in, push him into the center screen for enough time so we can sell tons of merchandise. He was one of two walk around characters. Just him and Jim in Disney World.
Really? Wow.
So they would, in 2003, they would have him and Jim come out on like a solar surfer or take pictures in front of a solar surfer with guests. I actually found some pictures of that, and it was super interesting. And actually, Jim Hawkins was spotted in Tomorrowland last year for some reason. I don't know why. Yeah, like maybe they were testing to see like the recognition factor, like if people still know Jim Hawkins and want and have a desire to take pictures with him and stuff. So yeah, pretty interesting.
The answer, Disney, is yes. Still recognition. Please bring him back. That would be great, please.
And maybe make a Solar Surfer simulation ride and give me credit for coming up with it.
Yes, that would be so cool. Absolutely. So is there anything in the film, like for me, I would obviously, I think, want to change Ben a little bit, but is there anything you would want to change in the film that you think maybe there's something that didn't need to be there or something that could have been added to make it even better?
Not a lot. I think maybe a little more like with the mom could have been good to build a little more of that, like, because you forget pretty quick about like why he wants to change everything, like why, that he's got his mom back home. You kind of forget about all that he's doing it all kind of not just for himself but for his mom. And then I would say there's definitely a sequence later on after the maroon or the what's the word I'm looking for? Like the coup happens.
The mutiny.
Mutiny, yes. I don't know why I couldn't think of that word. It's a pretty simple word. But and I watched the movie an hour ago. So anyway, but when the mutiny happens and they kind of escape and fall down to the planet and there's like a stalemate with Silver, there's a sequence that like it feels like a scene was cut. It just feels like a scene was cut when they go through the door and then they're going to steal a ship or a little escape pod ship to go back up to the RLS Legacy to get the map. It just seems like there's some cuts, some hastily thrown together sequences there because like how do they steal the ship so easy without waking them up, or how do they maybe how does like what compels Silver to then go with his crew to tie up the gang back in the hideout,
Yes.
So maybe like a little subtle, like, they steal the ship and then everybody wakes up and sees, or Silver wakes up and sees Jim flying away, and then you get to see them kind of seizing the fort. I don't know. It just seems like there's a scene or two just short that kind of would have helped not make it feel like that was kind of a hastily thrown together section. But that's about all I can think of. It's like I said, it's one of my favorites. So
yeah, that's a really good point. I hadn't really thought about it until you pointed out, but it's true. It's like, how did Jim get that so easily? And yeah, when he comes back, the crew has tied up Amelia and Dr. Doppler, and you're like, oh wait, what? Yeah, there's definitely some stuff missing there, and I wonder, if there some stuff on the cutting room floor that was supposed to be there.
Yeah, it wasn't a short movie by any means for like the Disney animation standards, hour 35, hour 38, something like that. So it's very possible that they had to cut 5 to 7 minutes that they wanted to keep in there. So
absolutely, yeah. All in all, though, I would agree. Like, it's pretty solid. There's not too much I would want to be different. And what are some of your other favorite moments? I know we've talked about, the I'm Still Here song and all those things with Jim and Silver. But what are some of your other favorite moments?
Other favorite moments? Well, for sure, Delbert Doppler's like breakdown when he's like, Jim, I'm not a doctor. I mean, I am a doctor, not that kind of doctor. I have a doctorate. You can't do anything with a doctorate. You can't help people. You just sit there and do nothing.
Yes.
Somebody told me that was like a reference to another movie or show. I'm not sure which one, but somebody was trying to tell me that, and I forget. So sorry to whoever that was, but yeah, apparently that's a reference to something, and maybe Star Trek or something. But
oh, you know what? I think I have heard that, and I think it is something to do with Star Trek.
Okay.
I'll have to ask my friend Laura because she's a huge Trekkie, but that sounds like something that would be from Star Trek.
Yeah, that is such a funny line that I just every single time I just repeat it just like I just did to the TV.
Perfect.
And my friends look at me like and give me that smirk of like, you've watched this movie too many times.
No such thing as watching it too many times. Dr. Doppler is great, and that line always gets me.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I think the other things that just like that I haven't mentioned already, which I've mentioned a lot, I feel like, but there's some just really smooth moments of Jim showing his edge. I can think of the map, like when he's got the map and they're having the stalemate with Silver, and they start breaking down, like the discussions a little bit are like breaking down, and he's mad at Silver, and Silver's like, that treasure belongs to me, by thunder, and he's like, well, you're never getting it without my map, by thunder. And
yes.
I don't even know what that means, but
who knows?
It's still such a good quote. And then once he gets back from the Legacy with the map and they're trying to get him to open it, I just absolutely love the face that, like the sequence when he opens the map, they all see it and they're like, tie him up, throw him with the others, and he closes it, has that smirk on his face. He's like, if you want the map, you're gonna have to take me with you. I just love that. And Silver then gives the nice little sly You've learned well, kind
Well
of thing.
played,
So,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Touche.
Yes, Jim is so smart, and has all these like moments of just like, he's gonna try to outmaneuver these pirates, and like
Yes.
he can.
He's out pirating he's Jack Sparrowing the whole time. It's so great.
Yes, absolutely. It's so good. And some of those acting choices, animation wise, are just gold, just wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say the same with like all of Dr. Doppler's like expressions, and like he always doing stuff in the back, and it's like, oh my goodness. So again, just one of my favorite characters. So funny.
Yeah, who was he voiced by? I forget the name. I remember reading that like they had planned for Doppler to be that voice actor from the beginning of writing the script.
So, David Hyde Pierce.
Okay.
Let me look at his career. See if let's see if I know any of them.
Okay.
Not a lot that I know of, actually.
Really? What's he been in?
So, Nixon, A Bug's Life. Isn't She Great? Chain of Fools, The Tangerine Bear. Osmosis Jones.
Oh my goodness.
So,
Sleepless in Seattle, that was a pretty big movie, wasn't it?
That one is definitely. I've seen that one.
Yeah, no, I'm not super familiar with him. Oh, Terminator, he was in Terminator as well.
Okay, yeah.
But for some reason I remember reading when I was doing research for our own take on the movie that he was planned to be maybe from his TV show Frasier. Maybe that's where he's most famous. I don't know, because he's in that for 11 years. But
Dr. Niles Crane,
they had planned for that to be him the whole time. So
I wonder if that's it. Frasier is
because he was a doctor
funny.
in that movie.
Yeah.
Or in that TV show.
Oh man.
Yeah, another interesting voice shout out from the intro narration. Did you recognize that voice?
I did not. So now I'm really curious. Who is it?
Yeah, so the guy who does the narration is none other than Tony Jay, who is Claude Froyo in Hunchback.
Oh, yes. Okay, yes, those voices. Yes, that makes so much sense. Wow. How did I never see?
I mean, the chills going down my spine were just Claude Froyo must be here somewhere.
Right. Oh my gosh. I do have such a hard time hearing that, like hearing voices. Like anime is a great example because it's such a small pool of voice actors that do English dubbed for anime. And so you hear the same voices all the time, but I'll just be like, Emma will tell me like, oh, this person voices this. I'll be like, wait, what?
Oh yeah.
I didn't hear it because I can never hear those things. But man, that intro narration, now that I know that, I'm going to be thinking about that every time and
you'll recognize it.
Yeah.
You'll be like, next time you watch it, you'll be like, oh, duh. It like sounds just like Froyo.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Is it Froyo or Frollo?
I always say Frollo, but
is it
je ne sais pas, je ne parle pas français. So
I don't speak French, so
exactly.
Nobody's ever corrected me and said I was wrong. So
I'm sure we can. I mean, as long as we know what we're talking about. I mean.
Yeah. There's a F-R-O and 2 L's and another O, so that's the one.
We make our best educated guess.
Yep.
Oh man, yeah. So again, and like we said, Emma Thompson, absolutely amazing. Oh, and Martin Short, all these great voice actors. So
yep,
really good cast, I would say. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Jim.
JGL, yes.
So good, absolutely fantastic.
He was so young.
Yes, it's so crazy. Before we kind of wrap up, unless you have anything else, I want to ask, what do you think about the proposed sequel? When this movie was coming out, they already had some ideas for it, and then of course it kind of bombed in box office, so it didn't get a direct-to-video sequel. Would you have wanted that, or would rather it be the way it is?
Well, so I do know of the sequel. And I would not have wanted the proposed sequel that I've read about, in which totally different directors and screenwriters. I think their names. Let's see, I can pull them up. I think it's like John Falkenstein, and Evan Spiliotopoulos. We're going to be writing. So not Musker and Clements. That is the main thing. And then I think it was going to be done by Disney Toon, not Disney Animation, and it was going to be about. So like Jim is in the Academy now, the Royal Interstellar Academy. And he has a love interest named Kate, who's his classmate. But there's this villainous Ironbeard that wants to free a bunch of inmates from the prison asteroid Botany Bay, I think it was called. And I think William Dafoe was on board for that. But I just didn't like, I don't know, it just... So Silver was going to come back and help them catch Ironbeard. I don't know. I don't know. It just didn't sound appealing. And also I've had so many of those sequels go wrong. Like Atlantis was the year right before, right? 2001.
Yes, I want to say.
And it had similar reception to Treasure Planet in terms of it being like a not super big financial success and not super critically acclaimed. But then they actually went ahead and made an Atlantis sequel, even though it was like supposedly it was like supposed to be a TV series, but they canned the TV series and put what they had already made together into a movie. And it's probably one of the top 3 worst sequels ever made. So
Agreed.
I just don't want this tainted. Don't want Treasure Planet tainted with a terrible sequel. So
that is completely fair. I feel like if we had gotten a sequel at that time, it would have been similar, where it was just another straight to, home video sequel where it's just a little lower quality, maybe not as much time to really produce something special, but just another way to sell a movie. So
I could totally go for a live action remake, though. And I've been vouching for this for a long time. A live action remake.
Yeah. That would be
this movie.
Amazing. Absolutely. So who would you have in your cast? I think you've done
did.
You did an episode on this. So
we
give us your
did. Let me
cast.
go back because I kind of forget what I ended up going with because we didn't want to like repeat. We did a bunch of casts of potential live action remakes. So I forget who I ended up going with. I know Wes went with Tom Holland as Jim. I went with Ansel Elgort as Jim.
Yeah. Yes.
Javier Bardem as Scroop.
Okay.
Emily Blunt as Amelia. And that one was an easy one for me.
Yeah.
I see Emily Blunt like that just reminds me of Amelia.
That's a great pick.
Yeah. And then Mr. Arrow, I have Idris Elba. Dr. Doppler, Alan Tudyk, who's a Disney veteran. Long John Silver, Andy Serkis. And then Ben, I just said Martin Short could just go ahead and reprise it. I mean, he'd be a voice actor anyway. He'd be a robot, so.
That would be great, honestly. Having a live action Treasure Planet, I feel like would, especially because it's a lesser known Disney movie, I feel like they would feel more free to make changes and to make it fresh and new. So I would definitely support that decision. Even though, like, for me, at least, most of the Disney live action remakes, I'm not a huge fan of. But I'm always like, you know what, they can try. I'm just not going to guarantee to like them all.
Which ones, if any, have you liked out of the live action remakes?
Okay, absolutely. So my all-time favorite live action, and the one that I think is actually amazing, is Cinderella. It has, and that was like one of their first ones they did, and it has the same magic and essence and heart of the original, but it's so different. And that's what I love, is like if it's a good live action sequel, I mean a live action version, it's one that changes it up. It's fresh, it's new, it's not the same Lion King then is my absolute least favorite because it is shot for shot the exact same thing except worse.
Yep.
And like, yes, I like the voice acting was amazing. The animation looks beautiful. It's crazy good. But it's just like, why would I watch this when I can watch the original?
Exactly.
And with Cinderella, it was like, oh, they just added so much character and so much depth. And I guess Cinderella is kind of one where you could do that because it was so simple to begin with that they had a lot of room to grow and make it. And they utilized their longer runtime, like a lot of these live actions have a longer runtime. They utilized that well in actually developing the characters and the story more instead of just, this is Prince Charming and he's a robot,
Yeah, we talked about the remakes a little bit. I forget which episode it was. I just remember my friend James, who was on that episode, saying like they gave a name to Prince Charming. His name is Kit, and he actually has goals or something.
Yes.
So I agree. Yeah, wholeheartedly with that statement. That with those remakes, you gotta change them. You gotta add to the lore. That's the whole point of going live actions. You can add to. You can have a longer runtime because apparently that's maybe you're expected to not have a long runtime with an animated movie. I'm not sure about that or why that is a thing, but it definitely is. And I kind of like Beauty and the Beast because I think they add a lot to Belle's backstory with her mom. They add a lot to. They give a reason why the Beast and Belle can actually connect, and it's their love for literature and just learning. And as of before, it's like, why do they connect? Like, where's the chemistry coming from?
Right.
I don't know.
It's just another one of those montages that just happens.
Exactly. It's a montage. You're right. Yeah. And I think Aladdin adds a little bit as well. It's not bad. The Jungle Book remake that actually adds a decent amount of backstory to like Shere Khan, why Shere Khan is going after Mowgli, and then Mowgli, what his backstory is. So yeah, and you're right. Lion King, my least favorite of them all. I haven't seen Dumbo, but I think Treasure Planet could go so far into adding to Jim's story, adding to Silver's backstory, which there's none. There's no backstory made of Silver, and give them also more of like a look into their relationship on the ship and how they, experience like that kind of father-son bonding. Maybe take the montage, which is great, and then expand it out a little bit as well.
Yes.
With that extra runtime.
Absolutely. And even in the film, like we get a little bit of understanding that, this treasure is what Silver has been after for such a long time. And he's like, he's a cyborg and he's lost things, like he's lost limbs and stuff, searching for this treasure. Like that's his whole purpose in life. And it would be interesting to kind of get a little more of that and then, understand and see more of the reason why he's willing to give that up for Jim. And that would be really cool.
Yeah, you think you're about to get some backstory at one point when Jim's talking about like how this is going to change everything, and he's like, plans can sometimes go astray, and he puts his like leg up on the seat and starts adjusting his cyborg leg, and Jim asks like, how'd that happen, by the way? And you like think like maybe he's going to explain a little bit of his backstory, and he just says, you give up some things chasing a dream or something like that. So
yeah, exactly. And you wonder like, Silver obviously sees something in Jim, and he says that, and what is it about Silver's own backstory? Like, does he see himself in Jim? Did he have another relationship with someone like this? Like, what was it that really made him connect and empathize with Jim? I think that would be interesting to explore. So.
Yeah. I know I'm not the only one calling for this live action remake too. I've been seeing it all over Facebook and the internet, so maybe Disney's listening. Disney Plus adds a whole new possibility of that. So.
It's true. At least for the, if there was a live action Treasure Planet, I'd be willing to spend $30 to see it, but maybe not for Mulan.
Yeah, maybe not.
Right.
Yeah, I'll wait till December on that one.
Exactly. Same. Well, was there anything else you really wanted to talk about discussing this film?
I don't think so. I think we got through like pretty much every scene, every favorite line. Yeah, with quite efficient progress too. I would say we did well.
We did well. Yeah. Usually, sometimes when I'm recording these, we talk for 3 hours, and I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah, I listened to that Avatar: The Last Airbender episode, which it was long, but I was in a long car ride, so it was great.
Good. Well, I'm glad that that fit your car ride. Yeah, we will sometimes. It just depends. It just depends. So there's this. It depends on, and Avatar: The Last Airbender. There's just so much to talk about. So
much.
It's easy to talk for 3 hours or more about Avatar.
And I'm a Suki Saka guy too, so you can tell.
Yes.
I forget. Was it Emma? Was
that
your
Emma.
co-host on that one? So.
Yes, a
Big fan.
Huge fan. Absolutely. Good. Awesome. Yeah, and like we just released the Attack on Titan, and that too was like so long just because there's so much plot, and so we went through the whole sometimes you just got to talk for 3 hours, and that's okay.
Oh yeah, for sure. We'll probably, when we get to an Avatar: The Last Airbender episode, which we're working on, I just got to get through the series again so that I can rank some episodes, like my top 10 or something.
Yes.
But once I finish that, we'll get to an episode, and I'm assuming that'll be a struggle to keep below 2 hours. So
yeah, because you usually keep those ones pretty short.
Yeah, I think we'll make it a full length episode about
good.
Avatar. So there's no way.
Can't wait to hear your thoughts on that because, man, so good. And you just recently watched that for the first time, right?
Yeah, I finished when it came on Netflix in May. I just jumped on it and watched it. Got done after about a month, I think, and then I gave it a little break so that I could watch a couple other things and then get back to it. And so I started again a few weeks ago. I'm going through it a little slower than I was the first time, but just because I got more stuff going on. But about halfway, a little over halfway now. So
absolutely, oh, so good every time.
Every time.
And that leads me to another like quick little add-on question of like, what have you been watching recently, besides Avatar: Last Airbender that you would recommend?
Yeah, well, in terms of TV, yeah, mostly just Avatar right now. But watching a lot of movies. Just watched Tenet.
Oh yeah.
A couple days ago, Monday. And that was really interesting. I need to watch it again because Christopher Nolan movies, they do a number on your mind. I would say I spent a little too long not knowing what was going on. And so maybe not an elite tier Nolan movie, but still like a really, really good watch, I would say. So I watched that. Just got a whole group of friends together to watch Your Name for the first time on Friday. Like I've seen it. That was my third time, but I got everybody to watch it for their first time, and most of the room was a fan. So even the ones that like were scared of anime. So
well, it's a great place for people to start.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that you've become an advocate for it.
Yeah, I had to disclaim at the beginning. I was like, guys, you've never seen anime before. Just imagine what would happen if a guy woke up in a girl's body. It's gonna happen in the first 5 minutes or so. You're just gonna have to get over it,
exactly,
and move on. And so I didn't want everybody looking at me like, what movie are we watching?
Right. It doesn't help that it's right at the beginning, so it's like, wait, keep watching. It's okay.
Right, but it's 3 times now watching that, and it still gets me pretty hard. So
yeah, every time. Wuthering with You is coming out on DVD.
That's
soon.
right.
So I've gotta get my copy and watch that again too.
Yes. I need to try to snag one too. I got to see it in January and it was also great. So
yes, it's in my very, very sad small list of films I actually got to see in theater this year.
Nice.
But it was really good, so I'm excited to watch it again. Just all of Makoto Shinkai's work is fantastic.
Yeah, those are the only 2 I've seen, so maybe I need to go back and find the older ones.
Some of them are a lot different. I really like Children Who Chase Lost Voices. That's not everyone's favorite of his. It's very different than some of his other stuff. It's less like romantically inclined and feels more kind of like a Ghibli fantasy adventure more. Yeah. But it's still really good. So.
Yeah. Also watched Inside Out last night.
Yeah.
Which first time I don't know. I feel like I watched it pretty recently, but it felt like it hit a little different this time. I don't know, but great. Inside Out, probably my second favorite Pixar movie.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Behind the Incredibles, which you're doing an episode on, or just did, or
Just did an
just did.
episode
I haven't got
on
a chance
The
to listen
Incredibles.
to it yet. So
Oh my goodness, yeah. The Incredibles is definitely one of my absolutely favorite Pixar films. I haven't actually gone through and ranked them, but it would definitely be up there. Inside Out though, I haven't seen it probably like since it came out. It's been so long.
really,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
it's touching. Pixar, there's not a lot of movies that make me feel things. Like Your Name for sure does. But Pixar movies, that's kind of why they're all like, there's 23, I think, and I'd say like 20 of them are like objectively really good in my mind. Like a few of them, like just Cars 2, Finding Dory, and maybe like Brave or Monsters U. Those two are like but
Yeah.
other than those four, like they're all like really good and
Yes.
make you feel things. Pixar does so.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They know how to tug on the heartstrings.
Bing bong. Fictional deaths I'll never get over.
Oh no. It's true. It's a tough one.
Yeah, you might need to give that one another watch.
I do. I'm like just thinking about it and remembering some of it, and I'm like, oh yeah, it's a good one. And I think it just has a good message too. Like all of your emotions are valid and important.
Yep.
That's really strong,
sure.
And I think
For sure.
something a lot of people need to hear more. So definitely.
Yeah.
Sounds like you're watching a lot of awesome stuff. I feel like there's always good animation to watch. My watch list is never ending. So
Yeah, you've been watching a ton of different kind of off the beaten path anime, haven't you?
I have. I've been just all over the place, it seems. I just this weekend have been watching, and I don't know how to say if it's Romeo X Juliet, Romeo times Juliet, Romeo and Juliet. It's basically Romeo and Juliet anime version. So, it's Romeo and Juliet, but there are dragons and magic and other things going on.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah, it's really, really fantastic. And I'm almost done. I haven't quite finished it.
Gotcha.
And I had never heard of it. I had no idea it existed. I mean, there's so many anime out there that you can't know all of them. But it was recommended by someone on Instagram, and I was like, yes, I'm gonna give it a try, and that's it. I loved it, and I was on board. So it's a wild ride. I'm a huge fan of Shakespeare, and this is actually probably my favorite Romeo and Juliet adaptation. Romeo and Juliet is not my favorite Shakespeare play. I think it's the worst one for high schools to do because, like, I feel like it's just not as engaging, and people always say it's like the best love story, and it's like actually it's just a couple of literal children that are like being stupid the whole time.
Okay.
And it's more about obviously like Lord Montague and Lord Capulet than anything else. But
sure. But Romeo and Juliet though.
Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. Maybe that's the contender for best Romeo and Juliet adaptation.
Best animated movie of all time, probably, or maybe Sherlock Gnomes. One of those two.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I've not seen Sherlock Gnomes at all.
I never saw that either, and I don't regret it. I don't have any desire to.
That does not need to be on my watch list.
I almost forgot to mention Wizards that came out last month. I binged that right away.
Yes.
So great. Yeah, I know
goodness.
you're a big fan of that series, and finding out that there's a movie coming out next year, pretty exciting. Did not see that coming.
I did not see that coming at all. I about lost my mind.
Yeah,
I was like,
I'm trying to get Wes to get on that train and watch Troll Hunters and then Wizards. I told him Three Below. He probably doesn't really need to watch, but
yeah. I mean, it's enjoyable, but I really don't think it's necessary to understand everything else that's going on, like in Wizards. And yeah, Wizards was so good. Oh,
it was good.
Man.
It was really good.
Top tier. I just love Guillermo del Toro, and I am so excited that we get a film too, because I was going to be really sad, like, as things come out like this and it's going to be the end, you're like, oh, part of me doesn't even want to watch it at all because I don't want it to end. And so knowing that there's a film, it's like, yes, okay, we get a little bit more of Dukesy and Jim and everyone, and Troll Hunters is just so fun, so fantastic.
Yep. And Wes is trying to get me likewise to watch Korra, because he just went through Korra and said it was way better than he was expecting. So
really? He said that? Oh, that's so good to hear.
Yeah. He's always been the one telling me that I don't need to watch Korra because he didn't think it would be very good. But then he finally went and watched it when it was added to Netflix. And he was like, it's actually really good. You should watch it. It's different. Not as good as Avatar: The Last Airbender, but still really good.
I would agree with those sentiments. I like it a lot better this second time watching through it, because we're planning to do an episode on it soon. So I'm watching through it again now that it's on Netflix. And I hadn't watched through all of it since it came out. And I would watch every single episode when it came out, but I was not a huge fan. Like, I was just so bitter about it because it's like not Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Sure.
But going in knowing that it's not Avatar: The Last Airbender, knowing the world is different, knowing that you're following different characters, like you it's not the same gang, it's completely different. Just going in knowing what to expect, I guess, has made it a lot more enjoyable, and I love it. I think it's absolutely super fun. I love the characters. There are some things that I wish were different, but all in all, like. If it wasn't compared to Avatar: The Last Airbender all the time, I think people would like it more.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, it is
tough to compare them, because I hear that Avatar was clearly written, all of it, before they made anything. Like, they knew where the characters were going, they knew where the story was going. But Korra was kind of written more season by season, it seems like, from what I've heard, because they didn't really know where stories were going.
Originally, they were only given one season.
Okay.
So they wrote one season. And then it was so popular that they got more and more. So really, truly, it doesn't have the same overarching like journey and scope and epicness, I feel, because it's like every single season is a different story almost. It's like they start from square one again, not necessarily in character development, but in like every single season is a new problem that needs to be solved. So it feels very, very different. And
gotcha.
So you can tell that there's maybe not as much forward momentum plot happening
They
all
just
the time.
weren't thinking ahead as the same way.
Exactly, because they never knew when that season would be their last. So
sure,
it was a little more unsure. But definitely watch that once you're done with your Avatar: Last Airbender rewatch.
Yeah, I think I will. I think that'll be next on the docket.
Awesome. Well, that is so great. This has been a blast. Thank you so much for joining me today. This was so much fun, and Treasure Planet is amazing.
No problem at all. It's always a pleasure to talk about Treasure Planet. Last thing, I'm just curious, where would Treasure Planet rank for you? Like, if you were to rank all 58 Disney movies, where do you think, like, just roughly within, like, maybe within, like, 5 spots, where do you think it might rank?
Oh, man. Oh, that's so hard. It's so hard to choose. I would say Treasure Planet. Oh, man, there's Disney, just so much good stuff. I would say probably in the top, like, 15. I would say it's definitely up there. It's one of my favorites. I feel like there are so many that would be very close, but it's not necessarily top 5. Like, Tangled is like number 1 always.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of where
Tangled's my number 2. So.
Oh yeah. What's your number 1?
Aladdin.
Okay.
Big Aladdin guy.
Yes, absolutely, totally valid. Yeah, because Aladdin and like Beauty and the Beast, and those are definitely The Lion King is so good. Just a masterpiece. So definitely would be higher than Treasure Planet, but Treasure Planet is still one of my favorites for sure. So good question. And where does it lie then for you on the rank?
Yeah, it's actually surprised me that I like. So I did in 2019. I watched every single of the 58 movies, so that I could make a ranking for all of them. Mm-hmm. And I thought Treasure Planet would end up higher because of how much I love it. Like, clearly you guys have listened for like an hour and 15 minutes now, and I've gushed about it. But it ended up at 19, which just is a testament to how many great movies there are. But out of 58, 19, and like considering how little hype there was around it, it's way above. It's way above on my list. Some movies like couple spots above Snow White, quite a few spots above Little Mermaid.
Yeah. Wow.
So some classics, Pinocchio, 101 Dalmatians. So it's way above some of what would be considered classics. So it is. I have very high regard for it.
Absolutely. And it is hard to rank when Disney just has so many phenomenal films.
So hard.
Like
Picking your favorite children, basically. Like
right.
you can do it if you need to, but
still kind of impossible and hard to do.
Yeah,
yeah, that's awesome. So thank you again. This was great. And everyone go watch Treasure Planet.
Yes.
Even if you've watched it before, just rewatch it. Do it.
Definitely.
Put that Disney Plus to good use.
Definitely do it.
Thanks so much for listening. Remember that you can get an exclusive new Fanimated sticker by going to patreon.com/Fanimated and helping us support the technical costs of the show. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Fanimated Podcast to stay up to date with all things animated. And don't forget to leave a rating and review telling us what you'd like us to watch next. The music is provided by Purple Planet Music and the art is done by myself. You can find me on Instagram at CandorDraw. Thank you to Perry for joining me. You can hear more from him on Banter, I Hardly Know Her, and on social media at banter_pod. I'm so excited to have another new guest on the show later this week. So until then, stay tuned and stay animated. Kudos to you for doing that, for watching through and actually ranking them all. That's crazy.
It was tough. I would say definitely aided by the job I was working that had a lot of free time involved in it. So...
well, that does happen. That does happen.
Yeah, so theoretically I got paid to do it. Don't tell my ex-boss, but
we won't tell. That's great. That's great.